Hi! Thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to my official YouTube channel and like this video, my official YouTube video, as well as share the link. Then go to my website, www.susanmuling.com, and take a look at what I've been working on. So, a couple days ago, today is the 24th of April, 2022. I had discussed this years ago. I had done an official YouTube video, technically a couple years ago. So this is 14 years prior to now, the 24th of April in 2022, as far as what occurred. Just for clarifications. So it is known to some, but for the clarifications, in the year of 2008, my son and my daughter, their biological father died. I had to take care of things even though we were separated and had not been together since essentially 2006. It was the second and final separation. He had gone back into the Army. There were multiple aspects of. I still had the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. At that point in time, I had finally learned the words subarachnoid hemorrhage and frontal lobe of my brain. Dealing with headaches and migraines, memory deficits and cognitive disorders. It took to that length of time to remember those words from my neurologists, as well as my neuropsychologists, as well as the different life skills in Wilford Hall, as well as Brooke Army Medical Center, and the medical center at Camp Bullis in San Antonio, also known as Military City, USA, in the state of Texas. There were a lot of situations combined in that time frame. My biological son and my biological daughter, for that clarification of who I was pregnant with, while still having the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, as well as the delivery of each one in the year of 2001 and 2002, both in the month of September, for an additional clarification. Those situations were as they were. I did the best that I could. As best as I could. Despite the situation in regards of Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr. and the garage, also known as Cactus Jack, in the reference of the 151 Road Warrior situation and all those other capacities as to the clarifications, we were involved. It was as it was. So, in the year of 2008, at the end of January into February, I was dealing with quite a bit. There was the reality in reference to the Chief Warrant Officer 3, who had informed me, as well as my ex-in-laws, about the stolen valor in the dress blues regarding the JCPenney pictures, which everybody, meaning my son, my daughter, their biological father, Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., also known as Cactus Jack, and myself, were in this picture. Okay? So it was known. It wasn't anything that was hidden. It's a different version and some degrees of how certain factors are looked at in certain supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle in comparison to other factors at the time regarding the garage situation. Anyway, I was almost about to no longer be volunteering at 9 Lives Books because of Then CID showed up to the MP station and picked me up to go to CID in the CID agent's vehicle, where for several hours, from around 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning, all the way until about 1:30, 2 o'clock, or 13:30 or 1400 military time, the amount of questions as far as what I dealt with in those references. Then I went through the chain of command as best as I could because of a multitude of situations in those references, because I promised my ex-father-in-law I would do what I could to get the answers as best as I could. My children's biological father, my dead ex-husband, was the baby of the family. He was the fourth of 4 children. Despite the situations regarding the dress blues and all the other factors of, including how I chose to salute at Camp Mabry during the national anthem. This is another reason why 10 Commandments are so important, because I was and am the sponsor. Despite how I did not graduate basic training because of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 during basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So I did everything I could for my ex-in-laws regarding the services and everything in that capacity. You have all these other factors that I've gone into detail about before, the, in my opinion, false awarding of the Bronze Star to my dead ex-husband posthumously when he had been denied the Purple Heart, which is a lower aspect of, because of those situations. And so as I went up the chain of command, and as I got to the JAG office, or the what would be considered attorney office regarding the Army base, and went through the coroner's office at Wilford Hall in reference to asking what was going on with the embalming process, because I didn't understand why there were certain factors, albeit the drive from San Antonio to Fort Worth area business days, 30 days total, would be the 1st of March in 2008 in comparison to in April of 2008 regarding that. So, my son and my daughter were capable to have that memorial service at Fort Sam Houston. And again, when the memorial service occurred, it was obviously more than 30 days from the end of January in 2008, which, of course, having my own blue ID card and that whole reality regarding the sponsor would translate to, even in his office, he brought up about his opinion regarding how he thought I should be. In reference to medical hold unit, he wanted to feel special because he had assisted with the name change from medical hold unit to warrior transition unit. I've explained my response to that in his office. That was his excuse as to why he utilized the terminology that he did while he was in active duty uniform in his office on a military installation. For those who do not know, a soldier that is in uniform cannot utilize certain verbiage, especially to a legal widow, despite being the sponsor. And when an officer rank, such as a major general, there's only 2 ranks higher than that for clarification in the generalized way, pun intended, and 3 ranks total if you're going to be in charge of the entire army of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. So, the UCMJ would be in Article 134, as well as a few other articles in the UCMJ, for conduct unbecoming of an officer would be the UCMJ penalty in reference to Major General Gilman, among a few others. So, that particular Major General, in my opinion, Gilman, I apologize, utilizing those words to a legal widow, but a known factor as to the mom of 2 children, both in elementary and preschool age, at the time of in 2008. To me. So then afterwards, he had emailed me that the colonel and his 2 aides in the unit had come back to Texas after having been in Iraq, from what the email said. And he wanted to know if he, as a major general, would be allowed to schedule an appointment for me to meet with this colonel and these 2 enlisted soldiers, which I graciously appreciated. As I had explained, I had thanked Major General Gilman, told him that I appreciated the usage of his office after he scheduled the appointment for me, and asked him to excuse himself out of his office because of the reality. Well, I was returning the Bronze Star and the paperwork, and there was the situation in regards to those 3 soldiers who quickly withdrew their firearms on that military installation, and I swiftly put my hands up. And I apologized profusely because I was informed they had not been on the soil of the United States of America for longer than 7 days. And so they asked me why I had my backpack, and I said I was returning the, in my opinion, falsely awarded Bronze Star. And so they told me to the green folder and the green box and handed it over to the colonel, explained the situation as they started to put those firearms away. So the colonel was no more than 6 feet from where I was. The 2 aides were no more than 8 feet from where I was. So, I know what gun oil smells as very well. Just from that, I also have a very good idea as to other scents in that particular reference. So, handed it over and they made attempts as best as they could. And I appreciate you trying to sugarcoat this. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Whatever it is, I need to go. I'm sure that might make sense to anybody with or without a psychological degree. I think that's fairly common sense as far as that's concerned. And so when I went to open the door, General Gilman was on the other side of the door. Major General Gilman was on the other side of the door, and when I opened it, he almost fell in. And it was, well, thank you for the usage of your office. If you could get out of my way, I appreciate it. Excuse me, I need to go. I smoked a whole pack of cigarettes from the distance of BAMC to my house in San Antonio. Whole pack of cigarettes. I'm sure there's a few people who might be capable to understand why. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. And so, at that point, it was, gonna move. Yeah, gonna move because that's not acceptable. No, that's not acceptable at all. I'm sure that makes absolute sense in every capacity because common sense. And so I went and looked at houses in the DFW area. My biological mother, biological father, and biological sister during the first separation had assisted my now dead ex-husband regarding babysitting my children. They didn't assist me. Just for that clarification. So during the first separation in 2004 to 2005, they assisted him. They did not assist me at all because of the way the arrangement was at that time. So, one evening, after having looked at houses in Carrollton, Texas, I found this house that I thought was perfect. I was all excited, all sorts of stuff. I was staying at the Comfort Inn in Addison, Texas, and I had insomnia. So I got my stuff in my car, which I named Zippy. It's a yellow and black VW Beetle that looked like a little bumblebee. Turbo engine, black leather interior, black convertible top, yellow exterior. To me, looked like a little bumblebee. And because I do as I do, I named my car. Her name was Zippy. So, in that reference, it's about maybe, irony of ironies, 1 or 1:30 in the morning when I leave in comparison to the afternoon. So I leave around 1 or 1:30 in the morning to drive on I-35 South, and at a point between Waco and Austin, I am in the middle of a whole convoy of semi-trucks. For anybody who's driven late at night, you know that the majority of vehicles on the road are semi-trucks. And so I'm, pun intended, zipping through different areas to, get back to my house. My guards up, let my son and my daughter know that I'm home. All that, inform Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., also known as Cactus Jack, about it. And as approaching this particular area between Waco and Austin, there's not much light pollution. So it's not difficult to see ahead if you pay attention to certain things. And having headaches and migraines, there is that light sensitivity. So seeing the bright red, bright red, bright red, bright red, bright red, one after the other, and then seeing the bright yellow flashers right afterwards, yeah, when you have headaches and migraines, you're going to notice that like that. And so those go, and I am in just this little itty bitty VW Beetle. And the semi-truck that's in front of me that slammed on its brakes literally started jackknifing. And I see the semi-truck that's behind me not slowing down because I'm in a little yellow VW Beetle convertible. So I, go in the center area where there's the dotted line, and I just, pun intended, zip down the middle because it's a bug. A beetle is a bug, even though it's a car named Zippy. And when I looked in my rear view side mirror, I literally saw where the nose of the semi-truck, which was behind me, had just a few feet between its nose and the trailer portion of the semi-truck that was in front of me. Took my breath away a little bit. After that whole situation at Fort Sam Houston, so I was a little, good morning, literally, despite it being night outside. I already had insomnia at that point in time. I was awake for about 48 hours after that without coffee. Not that caffeine assists, to be honest. Regarding keeping me awake, that has nothing to do with that. But anyway, so I drive, and when I start counting, there's about 10, 15 semis on each side of where I'm driving on the dotted line in Zippy, my little VW Beetle. That looks like a little bumblebee. And I just drive, when I start counting, about 10, 15 semis on both sides of where I am, this 2-lane southbound going highway. Whenever I started counting, because I could be wrong, but I didn't really count or care to count how many cars or semi-trucks at first. I was a smidgen, teeny tiny bit freaked out because of that rear view mirror viewpoint of that jackknife trailer with that semi-truck that was behind me where its nose was. I'm fairly certain that's common sense. I'm not certain though. I don't have a degree in psychology. Just saying. It seems like common sense to me though. And so I start counting at whatever number of however many I passed, and it's about 10, maybe 15 on each side. Semi-trucks. And so that's about half to 3/4, if not a full mile. By the time I get to the front of these semi-trucks with their white trailers and all of those blinking bright red and bright yellow lights, and I have headaches and migraines. I still had the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain at that point in time as well. It was almost fully clear out of the MRI and CAT scans, but it'd be a few more months before that was fully shown that it was clear. So I get to the front of the line of these bright lights, because you have the white lights of the headlights against the white trailers with the blinking bright red and bright yellow lights. Anybody who has headaches and migraines, you can envision how painful that actually was. Why didn't I sleep for 48 hours at minimum? Probably makes a bunch of sense at this point. So anyway, reach for my cell phone. I call 911. The other semi-truck is facing the southbound traffic on the right side in an angle way towards the white line. And it's facing northbound, though the traffic is southbound, for that understanding. It looked like it was a dump truck. The truck was turned over on its side and twisted and mangled, though those who understand how semi-trucks are, or even semi-dump trucks, they have the trailer hitch. And then the semi-truck cab was on its side where the passenger side was on its side. And it didn't have a back area from what I saw. It was just the seat was against the wall from what I saw. Then again, I also couldn't see very well after all of these blinking bright white areas because of my headaches and migraines. And so I'm on the phone with 911 making attempts to tell the female on the phone where on I-35 southbound we are. She wanted to have a discussion and see how things were going instead of actually whatever. So one of the other semi-truck drivers from one of the semi-trucks in that particular procession of the convoy gets out, and I look at him and I said, "You're a semi-truck driver, correct?" And the male said, "Yes." And I said, "Here, talk with 911. I gotta go over there because there's a semi-truck driver who's standing on the door that I saw, and he's looking down into the cab. Don't know who he is. Didn't ask. It wasn't a priority. Excuse me on that." So I run up from where my car zippy was, jump up onto the driver's side semi-truck door. I just did. And then the window was open, and I see the guy inside. I look at the guy who was standing on the door, and I said, "I'm going to get in. I'm going to turn off the engine. I'm going to unbuckle this guy, and then, get a hold of his shoulders. You pull, I'll push on the count of 3. The guy nodded, and he goes, "Okay." So I jump in. There's chemicals going all over the place because of however that collision occurred. I don't actually know. I wasn't there. I just happened to be however many back. And so I turn off the engine and unbuckle the guy. I was in the technically the passenger seat by that point, although technically standing on the door. And all I hear is the engine spewing stuff. And I'm covered in whatever chemicals as far as that's concerned. I unbuckle the seatbelt, which, because of the way the cab was, he kind of fell that way, obviously, landed on my shoulder, and it was very get a hold of his shoulders, and I counted 1, 2, 3, and I pushed, and the guy pulled, and he went upward, and I climbed out after having pushing him out, is what it is, and the other guy and I fireman carried this guy, so had his arm over my shoulder and literally kind of dragged this guy because he was kind of in and out of consciousness, get him behind my car zippy. And ironically, I had Lipton sweet tea, but it was lemon sweet tea. I thought I got Lipton green tea, and I don't like lemon. So, irony of ironies regarding anybody who knows the antibacterial properties of lemon. So, I get him to wake up, because, you need to be awake, and get him to try to, if he couldn't drink it, it was fine, he could at minimum swish it around his mouth, which he did, spat it out with some blood and teeth and whatever. The semi-truck driver that I had given my phone to walks over and he's like, "This 911 operator doesn't know where we are." And so I take the phone and I speak with the female again. And again, similarly, "Well, is everything okay? Well, can you get fire department, EMS, and law enforcement out here? That'd be a great idea. It's kind of important." Not the way I said it, but it was made the attempts to explain one more time, and I hung up the phone because I was concerned in reference to this mail. So I hand him my cell phone and I say, dial whatever number you remember last. And he dialed whatever number and he's in and out of consciousness. Wake up, come on, wake up. And so I leave a voicemail or a message on the answering machine. And I say my name and I tell them about the collision that I saw in regards of not the actual collision itself, but where I was assisting. And that was it. And so, didn't know anything else, it was as it was. Whatever point in time the EMS shows up, they get the guy on a gurney, they take him out to wherever they took him to. I'm waiting for law enforcement because the EMS people were like, oh, you can leave now, and it's like, no, not without law enforcement informing me that it's actually clear for me to leave. Because I didn't see the collision, but I need to make sure in case they need something from me. And so the EMS male and I argued. He was a blonde male, I remember that. And so at some point in time, this African-American female and a Caucasian male run up to where I am. And they asked to speak with me. Well, the African-American female was who gave me the microphone, while the Caucasian male held the camera. He was about 1.5 feet taller than the African-American female. And she asked me something about the collision, and I said I hadn't seen it officially. And she had somehow known about me having been in the Army. I may have said something, but I don't remember. And she asked me, did I learn what I did because of the Army? No, I didn't. Before I could actually explain anything, that African-American female took the microphone from my hand, and then the Caucasian male turned off the bright light that was on the camera. And I didn't graduate basic training, and that's a particular MOS on top of that in comparison to what my MOS would have been, which is logistics. That's what my MOS would have actually been had I graduated basic training. There's no, I don't know what some people think when it comes to enlisted basic training. I don't know what the difference is in regard of officer basic training for the Army, but the normalcy, I would guesstimate, is not being taught how to run up to a semi-truck that's overturned. I'm fairly certain this isn't in basic training. I don't know. I only got to however many days of basic training. And I don't think in basic training they teach you how to jump into the cab, turn off the vehicle, and then unbuckle the seatbelt to push the guy out as to the count of 3. I'm fairly certain that might not be taught in basic training for the Army. I could be wrong. I'm fairly certain, though, that might not be in basic training. If anything, that might be an AIT, probably for the fire department and or MPs. Probably not for logistics. Hypothetically, I wouldn't know. I did get to see Fort Lee, Virginia recently. I didn't drive all the way around Fort Lee, Virginia. I'll acknowledge that. But I'm fairly certain that's not part of the MOS. For logistics, I did not see any areas where there were semi-trucks overturned. Maybe they had them in a different area. I don't know. I don't know how MOS training for logistics goes. I am fairly certain, though, that if that was at Fort Lee, Virginia, that would probably be in a different area. However, I didn't make it to Fort Lee, Virginia until 2022. So, maybe that training, if in logistics, is somewhere else at Fort Lee, Virginia. I don't know. I saw the quartermaster area. I saw the logistic area. I saw the hotel area. I saw the barracks area. I saw Special Forces training area. I did not see an overturned semi-truck or an overturned dually. I did not see that. So I don't know, maybe it was the wrong time of the day, maybe it was the wrong time of the month, maybe the wrong time of the year. I don't know. I don't know how that MOS training goes. Don't know what civilians know as far as that's concerned either. However, just throwing that out there. I was going to go in logistics. The most pogue of pogue MOSs. Because that's the reality. It's a pogue MOS, for those who understand that reference, aside from the fact that I wanted to go infantry or cavalry or combat arms or MP. Doesn't change the fact that my MOS was going to be logistics, but I didn't graduate basic training. So, but my biological father had been an EMS driver in New York City. My biological father, aside from the fact that, yes, he had earned his certification through the School of Oliva and had his own business in watch repair and jewelry aspects, could, certify gemstones. But he had done that before. And so he did, though, go and do the RN sort of schooling and became the equivalent of an LVN. But he had done the EMS stuff. He also had, who it was his best man at his and my biological mother's wedding, a guy who owned an AMCO garage that had mechanics. So I didn't learn any of that from the Army. That would have been a lie if I had done that. So I was going to tell the truth. I did tell the truth, but I was going to go into detail saying, no, my dad taught me that. However, that African-American female and that Caucasian male walked away before I could ever say anything. Whatever. It was as it was. I had a light blue shirt with a V-neck cut that had a bunch of rainbows and clouds and dark blue jeans and sneakers. Now, the back of my shirt, as one of the other semi-truck drivers noticed, had become holy. And I don't mean in reference to how today is Sunday and holy in that reference. I mean my shirt was literally holy. It was ripped to shreds, or I guess depending on whatever chemicals it was, had eaten through the fabric of my shirt. And apparently there was a bunch of red stuff on my back. I figured it was most likely the semi-truck driver's blood. That's kind of what I figured. It could have been my own, I don't know. I didn't feel a thing. As messed up as it is to say that. But I didn't. I felt the wetness from the whatever chemicals. Other than that, though, I didn't feel anything, except for when I actually went to push him out and then carry him. I felt stuff going on my back, but yeah, kind of priority of focus. It's kind of more important, in my opinion. I'm about life. That's kind of the thing. So in that reference, the semi-truck driver was like, hey, I have some baby wipes. And I was like, okay. What does that have to do with anything? And the guy was like, you might want to get wiped down. And I was like, why? What's the big deal? What? I can't see anything. It's my back. So what? I don't even know that my back of my shirt was as holy as it was. And so as he ran to his cab, I can make the joke, I was born in the year of the dog. So, well, what's wrong with my shirt? What? I can't see it. Anyway, I couldn't see the back of my shirt. car. And so he's like, is that okay? I don't know what it is. I don't feel anything. My head hurt a little bit more with all of those blinking bright white, red, and yellow lights. Kinda wasn't really focused on my skin because my head hurt a lot. It was painful, and anybody who has headaches and migraines pretty much can understand that, I would guesstimate. So, okay, well, whatever. So law enforcement showed up, and he said I needed to move my car, and I asked if there was anything I needed to speak with him about, and he said, no, you just get your car out of the way. And I said, I assisted in getting this guy out of the cab of the truck. And the law enforcement male, Caucasian, had said, no, I'll just say, get your car out of the way. Okay, you sure you don't want to see my driver's license? And nope, go. Okie dokie. Took off. Got back to San Antonio a little bit faster than usual. I was there, I think, maybe 45 minutes later to my house. And I was a little upset. I was in a little bit of pain, so I needed to get myself where I needed to be. And so I get back to the house, as far as my house in San Antonio, open the garage, and go inside, and Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., Cactus Jack, whatever, he comes down the stairs, and he's like, what's going on? Why are you, I need to go check on my son and my daughter. Go upstairs, check on my son, my son and my daughter, they're fine, okay. And okay, well, I better go take a shower. And he's like, why? And I said, oh, there's a collision on the road and I just had to take care of stuff. And he was like, what did you have to take care of? Oh, I just saved a guy's life, just another day. And take off like, I was a little tired, a little shocked, just, and there's a lot of stuff, and I've done a few things. It's not being rude. It's another one. I mean, I've saved a few lives before then and since then. So not being rude, it's just, okay. So I get in the shower and I start cleaning up, and it's like, oh, I see why I should take a shower. Right? It's a good thing that I had gotten back early. That was painful. Yeah, I did. I got some exfoliation, I guess is one way to put it. When I got out of the shower, I can make this joke now. In comparison to my shirt, I look like a leopard. My back, yeah, the kitty cat, the leopard, and all these spots. Either that or, like an octopi, tentacles, kind of, sort of, I can joke. And so I had all these little marks on my back, and it's like, well, it's a good thing that guy had baby wipes. That was literally what I said, and it was like, whatever. Finished drying off. Couldn't really put lotion on for obvious reasons, because I didn't know what that is. Oh, well, I'll heal. It is what it is. Gonna put some clean clothes on, take a look at my shirt, and wow, that's pretty holy. Well, now you have the different, those shirts that are all cut up and stuff like that for females. I was like, well, I should probably not have that. So, I wrap it in a bag, and, I got my pants, I had holy pants too. It's like, yeah, well, that makes sense. Well, the lower part of my back hurt. Oh, okay. I didn't go to look after at that point, because it's just like, where the shelf or the sink counter was. So I'm like, oh, I see that. Okay. And so, common sense to me, I also, hadn't slept in a while, and headache level was at migraine point, but those who have headaches and migraines, you know what it's like when you can't do anything except for, well, it is what it is. And so, okay, fine. My shoes were the color of my hair, but they were white when I purchased them. At that point in time, they kind of looked Christmassy, I should say. I don't know what the chemicals were, but I bought the shoes as white. They were red. pairs of sneakers. So, in my closet as an extra. So, alright, that's fine. You never know sometimes, and, I'm a biological female, so, what female doesn't have more than one pair of shoes? None is the answer after they're a certain age. So, not making light of the situation, just pointing that out. So, I take a look at my clothes and it's like, well, I guess I really don't need to wash that in the washing machine because that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. So, I go outside on the back patio and I light up a cigarette. And Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., also known as Cactus Jack, he comes outside and he's like, what occurred? Because he had seen my back. He had been in the bedroom talking with me, and the way the stand-up shower compared to where the garden bathtub was, he's like, what occurred? Oh, well, there was just, so I explained the whole thing, and he's like, so there was an overturned what? And I'm like, yeah, and so I just climbed in, and then, happy of it, whatever. And he goes, just like that. Yeah, just like that. And so, he was kind of like, do you know what you just did? Well, I just lit a cigarette from my other cigarette at that point in time in 2008, and he's like, yes, but no, that's not what I'm referring to. My dog Ganesh is running around and he's all, what's going on? Because big old Great Dane being a big baby, he tried at the point in time, at first, he's like, I want to be Helen. No, I need to calm down. And being a good, big baby is 200 pounds. And so, he's a 200-pound Great Dane. And so he had tried to be a ninja as a 200-pound Great Dane, which anybody who has a Great Dane knows they cannot be ninjas. They are not ninja dogs. However, he thought he was, and he tried to climb into my lap and put his head behind my back. So he had his front paws off of the ground, and his back paws were firmly planted on the patio as he was wagging his tail and hitting the metal table, which, headache, pain. And it's like, okay, yeah, you are not ninja. And so he was trying to put his paw to get his back hind legs in my lap, and no, that doesn't work that way. And so he's like in the shape of a C around me. You are not a ninja dog at all. And so he was not. So I had to, because he was being such a baby, I had to, I had just done all this stuff. So I get up, I push him off my lap, I get up and I pick him up and hold him like an actual baby because he was whining and he was sad. Yeah, no, that's fine, you 200-pound whiny ass Great Dane. Yeah, no, and so he had his head curled right here, and it's like, you are such a big, and he's whimpering. It's like, yes, you're such a big baby, yes. No, never mind, I just, maybe this is part of why, I don't know, because he was, full grown by that point. Maybe this is why I could push him out, I don't know. Good thing I didn't have to actually push him out, being a biological female and having 2 children, I can make the joke. And so yes, no, it's just a baby, and Ganesh is all, sad, and like, you are such a big baby. You are the biggest baby. I haven't ever met a dog that was such a big baby. Ever. And he really was. He was just a big baby. He's whimpering and crying. Yes, he's a big baby. It's a guy. Yes, no, I'm exhausted after driving all the way from Addison, Texas to San Antonio, helping and assisting with this, but you need attention. Yeah, no, that's fine, you whiny big baby. That's fine. 15 pounds, but I'm holding a 200-pound dog, rocking the baby, and like, yeah, huh? No, that's fine. No, I just, could use a relaxation for like 30 minutes, but no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'll go and take care of this. At minimum, my son and my daughter are okay. Awesome. Awesome, you white cat. And then, mind you, while he's whimpering, his tail is wagging. So anybody who knows how Great Dane tails are, I'm being whacked in the arm the entire time he's whimpering. And it's like, yeah, no, that, I don't consent to that. Excuse you. Because it is like a whip. Anybody who's ever had a Great Dane, and when they're all excited and their tail is wagging, it's like, and you get hit by it, yeah, no, it's like a whip hitting my arm after the end. It's like, yeah, no, that's fine. No, that's great. No, that's fine. No, that's fine. You need attention. Yeah, no, that's fine. Oh, that's fine. And he was the runt of the litter. That's the funny part, is he was the runt. The law enforcement guy that I had gotten him from said he was the smallest one. He turned out to be 200 pounds. Biggest baby ever. So, after that, and it's kind of like, okay, it's a little bit much between, Fort Sam Houston less than a full month before, and having driven back and forth, I think, 2 or 3 weekends in a row, and just one thing after the other, it's like, I would really like to be capable to just relax, but no, I have to take care of this Great Dane big baby. That's fine. No, that's fine. Still gotta be a mom to my son and my daughter, but no, this little Great Dane lady. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. I got this issue where I look like a, whatever cat, as far as one of the big cats, and my back, and no, that's fine. I couldn't sit down anyway and lean against the chair, because, that hurt. So I was like, all right, well, it's fine. No, it's fine, no, it's okay. Why bother sitting down? It's no big deal. Except it was, but, might as well just wait a little bit. So, later, my biological mother and biological father literally just showed up because, what else was new at that time. And so my biological father asks me what happened. I said, I went, this is what happened, and talk about it in my back patio. And he's like, well, why didn't the Army teach you that? Well, I didn't graduate basic training. That's the starting point. Again, I don't know if that's normally taught in basic training, because I didn't graduate basic training. I'm fairly certain it's a different MOS. Which would require me to have graduated basic training to begin with. However, that's fine. And so I explained the whole thing, and he's just like, well, that's true, yeah. And he went over some of the stuff he had taught me as a child. And it's like, okay, well, it kicked in real quick, took care of it. I was going to give you credit, which I did by technicalities in my book, Finding a Silver Lining, if you go to my website, www.susandealing.com. But, it is what it is. Fine. So move out to the Carrollton area and stuff like that, and because of the situations, I was informed that you change your phone number when you moved. Well, it made no sense in regards to cell phones, because it worked when I made the phone call, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe that was the issue with the 911 operator, because I asked her about triangulation, and she didn't know what I was talking about, and it's like, cell phone towers? What is wrong with this? I don't know. And so, that was an issue I had when it came to that 911 operator, because it's like, why would I have to explain triangulation? So, do you not have a GPS in this phone? What's wrong with you? You know, not that I actually said that at that point in time. But anyway, so, which I thought they did, but whatever. And so I'm, getting everything ready to go and gonna go move and stuff like that, and get to my house in Carrollton and do the painting stuff first, because before getting any of the furniture in there, might as well paint the walls the way I preferred it. And so took my son and my daughter to the paint area. I think it was in Home Depot, I think it was Home Depot, so that way I could get the specific paint color that they wanted for their rooms. And so my son had said he wanted pistachio. And I was like, where did you read that? Because it was, we were walking there, and it was just the wall of those paint swatch papers. And it's like, where did you read pistachio, handsome? You know what? I'm not going to tell you right now in 2008 what your biological father said, but how accurate as far as what I said. So that's fine, pistachio, that's fine. Hi girl, hi, I was a beard long ago, it's fine, that's fine, whichever way, which it don't matter, but you're going to have to let me know which pistachio shade. Oh, the darker green of pistachio, okay. Because anybody who knows what pistachios look at, there's multiple shades of green. And so, no, that's fine, okay, that's the shade of the pistachio that you prefer, that's fine, I love you, little handsome man, yes, it's okay. My daughter picked out the shade, I love that she just said blue. Alright, that's fine, again, it's the same aspect, whatever, that's fine, it doesn't, little baby butch, it's fine, no, it's fine, it doesn't matter one way or another, that's fine. Again, same thing in that same reference, it is what it is, that's fine, I don't get the colors, whatever, it is what it is. I love you, beautiful little girl, that's fine. And so, I get my stuff taken care of, and I go and paint all the rooms in what became our home for a while in Carrollton. And after moving and all that sort of stuff, the phone number situation as far as I was concerned, had taken my son and my daughter to school at McCoy Elementary, and I forgot my cell phone at the house. Well, yeah, just around the corner, it was a surprise. Aside from the fact that, yes, okay, you never know when you need to use that. Okay, fine. So, get back to my house, and on my cell phone, said it had a message. And I go into the voicemail area, and it was a female who said that she was thankful that I had assisted. I don't know if it was her father, her brother, her uncle, her son. I don't know. I don't remember at this point. This is back in 2008. And I was alright. Well, she just said thank you, and that was it. She left her number, and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. And it's not being rude. It's one of those. I've saved so many people by that time that it was completely foreign to me. First and foremost, I had never had anybody actually say thank you before. So that's the first thing. Second, well, that's kind of the most important part. There's not ever been a point in time where anybody before then or since then who had ever said thank you. So it was literally, I'm accustomed to saying thank you. I'm accustomed to asking questions, and I don't know what to do with that. And I remember this. I was sitting on my back patio, and I just looked at the phone, which is an irony in particular of this particular tattoo, which was in that time. And it was a red cell phone, for those who remember the Nokia type of phone. I just looked at it for maybe an hour and a half. Like, what am I supposed to do? So you said thank you. I don't know what to do now. Am I supposed to? And in my thoughts, while I'm looking at the phone, I'm thinking, if I were to say you're welcome, And so, because I haven't ever, in as many years, all the way from my childhood, my teenage years, shortly before then, all these times, I have never had anybody say thank you. I hadn't had anybody say thank you except for my son and my daughter. When it came to certain things, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And it's a phone on top of which, so it's not a human being on top of that. So it's one of those, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It made no sense to me. Again, I'm in a new location compared to San Antonio, so I'm completely confused. Despite the fact that, yes, I got my house and turned it into my home and stuff, but I didn't paint the phone. In my defense, that could be memory deficit and or cognitive disorder, and or it could be that I went from college algebra with trigonometry calculus to second grade math. So, and again, it was a cell phone and not a human being. So I have no idea what to do with this. And it's just, I don't know what to do. And I literally just, I guess, fine, I'm not the smartest crayon in the toolbox. I can acknowledge that. Whatever, it's the phone. And I did do this. I acknowledge this, okay? So I have the phone in my hand and I go, "You're welcome." Oh, I feel like a dick for saying that, and I put the phone down. Because I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. I can make fun of myself. That's fine. I can do that very easily, by the way. If you look at my prior official YouTube video channels, as far as the videos, subscribe to my official YouTube channel and go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com. I make fun of myself a lot. Yeah, I do. I have a saying where I make fun of myself because, I make fun of myself a lot. So I'm just looking at this phone, it's like, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't have a head injury to try to figure this stuff out, because I don't think that, you're welcome. Literally, I could make fun of it. I don't know. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to go pick up my son and my daughter from school in a little bit, and, after I finish cleaning my house, that's fine. Not the smartest crayon in the toolbox, that's fine. So I go and do my stuff, and go and pick up my son and my daughter from, tutoring afterwards, because I could realize my own issues. I didn't need someone, although I did have a lot of doctors, which, by the way, many of my doctors at Wilford Hall, at BAMC, and Camp Bullis, I argued with them. I apologize, you guys. I can see from that situation back in 2008 to now in 2022, you guys were correct. Other than my headaches and migraines, yeah, I can see why I didn't need to go back to basic training. Although maybe somebody who graduated basic training could tell me whether or not you learned to jump into the side of a semi-truck cab and turn off the engine with all the whatever's going on and then, push a guy out. Or if it's AIT, and if it's AIT, what MOS. So, I do believe it's probably fire department. I believe that might be the MOS. I could be wrong though. So anyway, I don't know if that's in basic training. I don't know because I didn't graduate basic training. However, okay, fine. Other than my headaches and migraines, because I really did. I argued in the year of 2000 all the way through 2008 with the military doctors of every one of them. No, why can't I be in basic training? So what, I have headaches. So what, I have migraines. So what, I have whatever that is, whatever, blood on the brain, whatever. Whatever, people bleed, I'm a female. I do that once a month. on that one, and it's like, but I do bleed once a month for like 5 to 7 days. It's a thing every month, except for 2 years. There were 2 years where I didn't bleed every month for a few days in a consecutive row, and those doctors did not understand what I was talking about. Some of them were females, which was a bit concerning. I can make a joke about my outfit and my hair. Nonetheless, I didn't understand for 8 years in a row, which I can understand now in 2022, compared to 2000 through 2008. Okay, fine. Which, I was permanently medically retired in 2004, which I still argued, what is your problem? Why can't I go to basic training? I had not learned by 2004 that the term is subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain yet. It took a few more years. Okay, again, I can concede. Fine. Again, it's 2022. I can concede on that. That's fine. And okay, sure, I deal with headaches and migraines, and drill sergeants do tend to yell at times. So okay, fine. I can concede on that. See, okay, fine. That's fine. In my defense, though, I genuinely had truly wanted to be in the Army, in the Armed Forces. I had stuff to do. Sure, I achieved certain things, whatever. But at that time, I diligently argued. I apologize, doctors. Because, there were doctors who, they have the light thingamabob with the picture of my brain, which I had difficulty looking at. Whatever. Excuses, which is actually what I told them. My internal. So, sure, I couldn't look at the lit up whatever doohickey mabob where they showed the MRI scan, as far as the x-ray stuff for some of the stuff, and then like the little video high definition of doohickey mabob stuff. Whatever. Because it hurt my headaches. So what? I remember in basic training they had a projection screen. In my defense, that's not that thing, so you know what? What? I can concede, that's fine. And so what? I needed to be retaught the names of colors that took years to learn, and, thank goodness there's the names of the colors on the paint. Sometimes I still forget. I acknowledge that. Because I'll look at it, when I look at my paint, meaning, my artwork. I can make fun of myself because I don't take the paint, whatever, and go, well, that looks as the shade of orange. Nope. Oh, well, that looks as the shade of purple. No, I don't do that. No. So I know the color red. By the name and the look. Rainbow. So, it took a while for me to accept it. I had a smidgen of an issue. Because, I can be stubborn. Any male who has met a female that is stubborn anybody who's met someone who was born and raised in New Jersey, male or female, really doesn't matter, in the 1980s, most specifically to the 1990s, sometimes some females can be a smidgen stubborn. At times, sometimes it can be a thing. Sometimes. So I can acknowledge I can be stubborn, and I had wanted to go with my invitation regarding Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. So I had doubly as much of a reason regarding the Army at that point, and when you add that Marine in that particular, so technically triply, in which then there's the irony of the Marine song. I can make fun of myself quite well. Thank you very much. And so, and then, the reason why I didn't call myself a soldier. Anybody ever meet a Marine who could be stubborn? I also wanted to be in the infantry. Anybody meet a stubborn infantry person? Cavalry. Anybody meet somebody who is stubborn in cavalry? Combat arms. Maybe that's a sign. MP. Possibly could be a bit stubborn-ish. Because I wanted to do recon. Special forces. If anybody's ever met any of those guys, because, as far as mast for short, I was like, well, I could be a Navy SEAL. So any of those guys. Maybe there's some stubbornness somewhere in one or two or all of those fields. Hypothetically. And then if you've met my biological father, I was raised by that. So then there's that. And I got to go to the Army. Despite arguing and all that for, as I was gonna do. I earned 26 scuba diving certifications. Officially by the certification date of March through November, although it should have been September, in 2009. Smidgen stubborn. Just a teeny tiny bit. By a lot. And so, after looking at the phone, which I can make a joke reference to my joke. Whatever. Well, so then some situations started occurring maybe a couple of months after that. My ex-mother-in-law, and I think it was the beginning of August, had gotten into a car collision. She had been driving somewhere in Fort Worth. And something occurred where she went into a concrete median. Well, in regards of the collision regarding the semi-trucks, I didn't see anything. Again, when I started counting, 10 to 15 semi-trucks back, they were full semi-truck trailers. So it wasn't like, and there were some, I do know, that were the 2 semi-truck trailer types. So there's nothing that I could have actually done, in all honesty. There's no realistic portion that I could have actually assisted with, in truth. Other than the fact that at that point in time, I still had the remnants of the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to 2nd grade math, dealt with headaches and migraines, memory deficits and cognitive disorders, and I had gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to 2nd grade math. There wasn't anything that I would actually have been truthfully capable to discuss. Except for, okay, what I did, which was assist. There wasn't anything that I saw, in all honesty, other than the layout of those particular vehicles, but that's it. There were more people in regards of the semi-trucks themselves that could have given far more details than I. I couldn't say how the actual collision occurred. I didn't see it at all. I only arrived however long after, because I don't know what length of time in reference to all of those semi-trucks getting to a stop and all that from the jackknife portion up. There wasn't anything that I would have been capable to assist with. In truth, there's no attorney or law firm who would ever actually put me on the stand at that point in time in any way. If you really think about the fact that in 2008, not only had I just dealt with the situation at Fort Sam Houston regarding the 3 soldiers and all that regarding, additionally, my son and my daughter's biological father's death, and all the other stuff in reference to the Chief Warrant Officer 3 and all sorts of what have you. There's also the fact that my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister were causing a bunch of needless problems in reference to throughout the city of San Antonio, as far as what they had said. They had been upset with me because I didn't remember people that they knew. In the year of 2004, they had been caught regarding them doing so, as far as the memory situations. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that there's no attorney or law firm that would ever speak with Mike, Anna, and or Patricia that would be capable to actually, in those references of, on top of the fact that the reality is I wasn't anywhere near the collision itself. Again, half a mile at minimum, if not 3/4 to an actual mile of driving on the dotted line. There would be no law firm with attorneys who would ever have me on the stand just by that, because of the reality that whatever number semi-trucks back, where the jackknifed trailer was with the semi-truck that had been with the nose in the very, just maybe 3 to 5 feet of where my car Zippy was, there's nobody who would have me on the stand over that. Because what would I be capable to testify over? Other than, okay, yeah, I took the guy out of the semi-truck cab, called 911, and told the other semi-truck to turn off the engine. There wasn't anything else that would have been capable for me to actually do. It's common sense. You don't even have to go to law school to know that. That's common sense. So, in whichever reference, whether it's the semi-truck driver that I had gotten out of the vehicle or the people in regards to the concrete median, there's nothing that I would have been capable to do at all. It's common sense. So, my ex-mother-in-law, she was driving in Fort Worth, and there was the situation in regards to where she hit a concrete median. She was hospitalized because of that. I don't know about anything in reference other than that. My ex-father-in-law all of a sudden had issues and he was in the hospital. It's common sense though. There was nothing that I actually would have been capable to testify about at all. I had explained to multiple individuals, not just in San Antonio, Texas, about that, in regards regards to my neighborhood in the cul-de-sac, in reference to the community that I was involved in reference to the San Antonio pagan community. Same thing in regards of 9 Lives Books, where I was volunteering. There's no one that would be capable to ever look at that and ever think, that would have common sense, of course, that I could have actually assisted beyond what I did. It's common sense. Anybody that would try to convince themselves otherwise, in my opinion, would be delusional because of how far back I was. More than half a mile away from the collision itself, there's nobody who has common sense that would ever look at that situation and ever actually think that I could actually have made any assistance in beyond what I personally had already done. So if the assumption, whether the 3 people regarding the maroon semi-truck along the concrete median, or associations in regards to the guy that I got out of the semi-truck cab, there's nothing that I would have been capable to assist with other than the fact that, yeah, what I literally just explained. Common sense, not rocket science. I knew that back in 2008, by the way, because why would I actually need to call other than that? If the reality was not in actual appreciation for the fact that I had saved his life, then that should have been left on the voicemail. Because that's common sense. Because if it was for actual legal purposes, which again, there wouldn't have been anything I could have actually assisted with. Common sense, other than what I did, then it should have been left on the voicemail, because it's common sense. The cell phone number had changed from San Antonio to the Carrollton area. That's first and foremost. So the technology portion automatically, pun intended, in reference to that. Secondly, if there's the bias in regards of how I physically look, in comparison to these other factors, that's another situation regarding JCPenney. Third, in regards of Camp Mabry and that particular factor, I had every right to salute during the national anthem, especially with the fact of being born and raised in the state of New Jersey, having grown up going to New York City in the 5 boroughs, as well as Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, as well as Lancaster and Pennsylvania. Common sense. Fourth, having been the one and only sponsor. Common sense if I chose to salute the national anthem with the American flag, as well as the individuals who graduated that National Guard in the state of Texas training. Fifth, in the particular reference of that semi-truck collision, if you were actually appreciative of life, then it should have been good enough to have just said thank you. Because sixth, if it actually was that you needed testimony, there wasn't any testimony for me to give, other than everything that I already had gone over back then in 2008, and since then. Hasn't changed, because it's the facts. Seventh, what did my ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law have to do with that semi-truck collision? All right, fine, I can understand regarding the JCPenney dress balloon confusion. Not that I condone certain factors. But 8th, then there's my son and my daughter in regards of an elementary school, and in that year of 2008, when their father, biologically grandfather, was the second death, in conjunction to my ex-in-laws, as to their biological father having been the baby of the family, then you have that factor. 9th, as far as common sense, I was told he was taken to a VA hospital, as far as that voicemail message. So there wasn't any medical bills, from what I was informed, as to the VA hospital. 10th, my son and my daughter were not in the car. They were at my house in San Antonio. So if in reference to the Fort Worth Zoo, on top of what occurred regarding my scuba diving, then there's that additionally to keep in mind as to this year of 2022 common sense. Unless you're just such a bitter individual that common sense, no matter how many people told you so, you just wished so much. Because you'd have to justify the actualities of in that hypothetical. Whether you have to do with the semi-truck driver that I had gotten out of the cab, whether you have to do with the semi-truck driver and other 2 people regarding the concrete median, whether you have something to do with whatever semi-truck company associated with either side. Common sense. Which I had explained repeatedly. So, if it was actual appreciation for life, if all that, in regards of that culmination, where would there actually have been the need for my actual testimony beyond this lecture? Other than what I put in writing. After I had already explained to a multitude of individuals from the year of 2008, which includes my ex-sister-in-law and her 3 children, and her then husband at the time, as well as my ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law, as well as my biological mother and biological father, at what point in time is that acceptance of the reality? Because common sense, in reference to whichever connection of, when there's 10 to 15 that I counted, when I started to count, what, by common sense standards, would I have been capable to testify about regarding how that collision actually occurred? The answer for those who don't have common sense is just like an area where I was born and raised going to most specifically, including regarding my basic training, Palm Sunday 2000, head injury during the time frame of 0. 3 aspects. So, but that goes to those types, I guess. Because if you're actually appreciative about life, well then, isn't it good enough to have left the voicemail? Unless, you wanted publicity. And then, you would have had to be honest. If in regards of a legal situation, you still had to be honest. So, as someone who survived a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, where I was in a coma for however long, with the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain that was still there at the time, had not fully dissipated out of the sight of the MRI and CAT scans. What would it have been to actually leave that as a voicemail after having gone through whatever hoops to actually get my new cell phone number at that time? I mean, by technological standards, how common sense would that be when you really take that in consideration? So, if in regards of the Fort Worth Zoo, and my daughter having been asked questions, whether in reference to my scuba diving and or that semi-truck situation, if she told you she wasn't in the car, what part of that didn't you understand? But then again, it depends on whether or not you actually appreciated life. Because by anybody's standards, if you actually appreciated the fact that I saved his life, wouldn't you say more if it wasn't that? Thou shalt tell the truth. So if it was a legal situation, why would I think about that at that time? Kinda was a little bit busy, especially if you found that out. Common sense, as far as that's concerned. You didn't need to know about the CID situation, did you? You didn't need to know about those 3 firearms in Major General Gilman's office, did you? Why would you need that? Although there is that common sense factor. So if it had to do in regards to that semi-truck situation, well, what would that matter? What legally would I have been capable to testify about that would have assisted either side? Let me go over how that would have gone if I had actually gone on the stand. Okay, put your hand on the Bible, whatever. And yeah, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Didn't see the collision occur. That would be the point where I wouldn't be on the stand anymore. If I had stayed on the stand, well, where were you? 10 to 15 semi-truck full loaded trailers back from where I started counting. In that VW Beetle compared to the semi-trucks. How tall can those be? Compared to a VW Beetle? Didn't see anything. Common sense. Especially with the distance back. So then, if I had remained on the stand, if, in that regard, my son and my daughter would have been in the back seat, and they're shorter than me. So then what lack of common sense do you have then, in regards to 2 elementary age school children, who would be shorter than me? Their mom, their only living biological parent, driving, along with all those flashing lights. What would I have seen regarding that? Common When you look in the rear of that semi-truck cab, can you see behind? And if you can, in regards of that rear window, what do you see? The trailer and not anything other than the trailer if it's a trailer attached? Correct? So in the reverse view, when in a convoy of semi-trucks, how far ahead as a driver can you actually see? Are you with the capability of X-ray vision to be capable to see all the way through a minimum of 10 to 15 semi-trucks? Or is that all of a sudden something that nobody thought about back in 2008 through this year, 2022? So again, if I had actually been put on the stand, which there would be no reason for me to, on either side, whichever driver and or associates of and or semi-truck companies, there would have been nothing at all for me to testify about regarding the actual collision itself. Common sense. What is the height of a 5'4" female sitting in a VW convertible Beetle compared to 10 to 15 semi-trucks for that site? I don't think you have to have a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of your brain to figure that out, or anything else for that matter. I don't think you have to have a lot that I was dealing with at that time. So being a good Samaritan in genuinity, where was the appreciation? In truth. Because if it was in regards of legal stuff, I was a child and a young teenager in New Jersey. So if your assumption in those references are a stereotype, why? What were you actually seeing at that point in time, if it wasn't genuine thanks and gratitude? So in regards of if in the connection of my biological mother and her sisters, as far as what those people did during the Vietnam War time, in comparison to my stance, on the 11th of September 2001, all the way through to the beginning of November 2001, regarding both sides of the drivers, whatever family associated, and business companies, what did you deal with regarding that day and that time frame compared to me? Just out of curiosity. You can answer that for yourself. So if in all that time, up to 14 years later, would you be the equivalent of my dog at the time, Ganesh? Right about now, as far as math, as to common sense? Because what does that tell you? If it wasn't until this official YouTube video on my official YouTube channel, even after having clarified other stuff before, both in discussions in person, face-to-face in person, as well as in writing, as well as my official YouTube channel, earlier videos from 2020, to now in 2022? I can only tell the truth. And I'm fairly certain one of the 10 Commandments says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness." Thou shalt not lie. I'm fairly certain. So that common sense factor, what would I have been capable to actually assist with beyond what I did? Again, on the ground is all I could do. Other than that, there's zero additional. So what needless problems were stirred up because a bunch of other people didn't feel like accepting that fact? What level of lack of common sense would that take? Is it the equivalent of an Eminem song from the year of 2000 about two girls and wishing otherwise? So after 14 years, what is the level as to what facts? So my son and my daughter lost their biological father and grandfather that year. You have life. As far as from that point in time onward, how lucky for you. Sure, it probably wasn't difficult to stir up needless drama regarding my biological mother, biological father, biological sister, and I by that time. Sure, there's obvious on that. I didn't attend her high school graduation, so duh on that. And then the stereotype regarding those political types of families and how I physically look. Common sense, not difficult in those particular references. Obviously. So, what is it that you actually were seeking other than the truth that I already brought forward? So, if for 14 years, this has literally been over where I was a good Samaritan, I thought there were supposed to be protection laws for that. Fairly certain there's that common sense. And again, what would I have been capable to testify to that would have ever clarified anything regarding that collision that I did not see? And legally, obviously, would have had to testify the truth. So if I had discussed that with anybody regarding anywhere, in whatever community in the state of Texas, whether the DFW community, the Austin community, and or the San Antonio community, keep that in mind, that you were actually told the truth back then. What does that say after 14 years? And what is justice for my son, my daughter, and I after what we dealt with in regards to that? Why would we have to deal with your problems for your lack of faith and your lack of acceptance as to those reality situations, hypothetically? Whether in reference to the collision itself and or that Caucasian male with the camera and that African American female who had given me the microphone. And or the military, as far as that's concerned. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So what would I have been capable to assist with? And by the way, where is the compassion regarding with what I, on my own, dealt with? So either side of those, including the male and female regarding the news, whatever, where's the compassion regarding what my son and my daughter dealt with in elementary school, with what I dealt with in the totality of? Where is my justice for what I endured in those particular references, especially at the 14-year mark? Because then, what level of bitterness do you have to have been informed of the truth over and over and over again? Do you wish you could undo any hypothetical aspects? Just can't be undone. Obviously. So where does the correct fixing and repairing occur? In the genuine aspects thereof. Especially when it comes to repeat. Well, as my son and my daughter. And what was our family. So if in regards of my Medal of Honor, our project trips, the 1604 I-35 situation, and etc., you should probably go and fix and repair that hypothetical list. So that way it's actually clarified and verified correctly. If that's a thing. Because, you know, common sense. And I'm fairly certain I wasn't responsible for the maintenance of either one. The same thing in reference to all sorts of other factors. So hopefully this finally clarifies that and actually gets that taken care of correctly. In case those times, you know, needed to learn how to accept that fact and fullness up. Because I, unlike some, am actually about the truth and life. So, you know, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. You know, those capacities. And make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like this video, and if you're going to leave a comment, make sure it's respectful and has etiquette. Go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. Go check that stuff out that I've been working on, you know, genuinely actually working on for my own profit in comparison, to what is the term? Easy money? Is that assumption aspect of? Regarding certain types, whichever side in that hypothetical. And that does include the companies themselves. Because what would common sense have been if you actually were for life? In regards to the supposed thank you voicemail message, common sense would dictate you would have told me that you actually were looking at a legal situation in comparison to assuming that I would automatically think of that. Because common sense. Not just in the overall aspect, just in the time frame of January in 2008 through that point in time in April or May 2008. Common sense. If you did enough research to get my phone number after it was changed, well then obviously common sense would dictate being capable to find that stuff out easily. Probably wouldn't even taken a whole month. At that point, what level of common sense do you have? Because it makes sense to me that it would take 22 years for me to accept, okay, fine, I couldn't go back to basic training. I can acknowledge, yeah, that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain because of the blood on my brain, as I had said, and coma and after effects of, and headaches and migraines and memory deficits and cognitive disorders, and having gone from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. Sure, okay, I can see how it would take me a while because of actual patriotism for the love of my country. Who would ever think that there would have to be any monitoring and other references? So, there is that. Then there's the irony in regards of prior situation regarding 2005 and a female who did not heed my advice regarding which she informed me of a male named J.R. Vaughn and the Patty Vaughn case in regards of Livonia. And those particular situations, how Pam had said J.R. spent a lot of time at truck stops. I didn't know why, but then there's that irony as well. Because why would I ever come across the radar in comparison? I'm just me. That's it. So, just that. So, thanks for